speak, guys, swap places with me, because so that Zoom people can see you, and other people in the space can see you as well. Is that all right? Yeah. Yes. Fabulous.
We're on finally.
We are on live now. Welcome everybody to our live.
We can see how many people.
Welcome everyone to our live conversation. Spread your wings. We are just getting set up with our Zoom. Here's Xiaowei. Hello. One of our artists who'll be talking later on about her journey and how we can move forward in Chinese dance. But instead of giving any more spoilers, if anyone's got any questions, please pop them in the chat. And if you do have a Zoom account, maybe you'd like to join via Zoom so that you can engage in the breakout rooms and you can engage in conversation with your video as well. So I'll drop the Zoom link in there and you can join us that way too. All right.
Yeah.
And today, thank you.
And ideally was to speak because when they're speaking, they can see you in your audience members. That's quite nice in the audience. Yeah.
There's Pat and Lauren. We're still trying to figure out sound.
Is Xiaowei and Addae? Yeah. Hello. Hello. Hi guys.
And that's Sabrina.
So
Sabrina. Sheetal, come and say hello. Hi. This is Sheetal. Sheetal. Where are you? Move over here. Welcome, Alex. Hello, Alex. Lovely to see you. Squeezing on the camera. Are you able to hear us?
No.
Not yet.
It's muted.
Oh, it's muted. All right. Okay.
How are we going to do the mute and unmute thing?
I'm gonna do the.
Oh, it's gone. Is that me that's gone? No, it's not gone. It's just studio. Maria's made a good point. And we shared the.
Yeah, someone got the key, so I'm just gonna give a Wi-Fi speaker into that because that'll work, won't it? Hi guys. I'll just do our speaker.
Wi-Fi speaker. The speakers is actually just be conscious. Make it clear.
Flavors. Probably a good idea for one cluster, so we didn't have one kind of set of rails, which I found was a danger.
So when you say one cluster, you mean because at the moment they present, discuss, and then we put it up and then we move on to the next one.
So that's what I thought was happening. So we had this conversation tonight. Great.
Not that little.
But this, so we're going to attach this one. It's quite lost.
Just 1 second.
Connected.
Let's make sure they've been
It's probably me jumping too much
Just saying that the face YouTube is on, so everything is live, yeah.
it's very unusual being able to
Shall I sing a song?
You want to sing a song?
I can't sing.
We are live on YouTube as well.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. What can I do with it?
It's not. It's connecting.
Disconnected.
Can someone help me put this speaker on, please? Yes. Hi, Kobe.
Hello, everybody. Yes, we should be on. We're just one little moment of technical. Yes. So I'm going to try it out. Hello, everyone.
Is it connected?
It's connected. Yes. Hi, everybody. We won't be long. Just so that everybody can hear all of the different conversations. We're just getting our set. Can't hear me.
Over it. Should we stream on YouTube?
I think we need an ox to ox.
Connected.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Can everyone hear me?
Disconnected.
Is there anything else that we can do, guys?
Yes. Do you got a key? I'll get
Hello, everyone. I'm sorry about the delay.
She's celebrating.
Lovely to see you all. We're just taking a few moments
From
just
building
to
door.
clear up
Just
an
close
audio
it.
issue. So,
These seats taken.
Yes, anyone go for it.
can everyone hear me on Zoom? Yes, fantastic. So maybe we start. I can see that, I think, with because everyone can hear me on Zoom, and if I can just get Akosua to talk just to check the sound. Akosua, can you give me a little sound?
Yes, as well as you can hear me. You're going in and out slightly, but do let me know if you can't hear me either.
Okay. We're going to try a different option.
Auxiliary input.
Okay. This should work.
So we can hear you.
Yes.
Yes, it does.
We're all good. Okay, fantastic. Fantastic. Okay, so we're here. We've got several. Welcome, everybody. Welcome. Sorry about the delay. And hello to our people watching on live stream. And hello to everyone in the audience. Great to see you. Hey. So yeah.
Say, it does look like a newsroom over there with you all.
Okay, so welcome to the second Spread Your Wings. I know I'm sharing the screen at the moment with the artists, and I will rotate that round. I think because we're delayed a little bit, I just want to, just welcome everyone, and let's get on with the schedule for the evening. Lucia, what do you think?
That's great. Let me just throw you all into our housekeeping phase and ask you all to please stay on mute unless you are speaking. We do encourage you to use your video and stay on camera. Want to see your wonderful faces as we've all been, as you know, lockdown seems quite far away And although we're online, it'd be great to see you directly as well. Please, we encourage you to use the chat as we communicate, particularly if you want to throw questions and so forth or make some points. Make a point, or also please use your emoji gestures, hands up and various other, whether it's electronic hands up or it's a physical hands up that you might want to use. Please feel free to use that as well. The only thing we do ask you to watch is your language. We'll be on camera, as I've said earlier, and we will be recording and also live streaming on
Recording
YouTube.
in progress.
And we do ask that you ensure that the space you're in is quiet so that we don't get any feedbacks as well. We will be going into breakout rooms for further discussions on the topics that are shared by our artists that are in the space as well. Without further ado, I will also ask you if you can please put your name and organization into this Zoom profile if you're happy to share your details independently in that way. And we will share with others and so forth. And I think that's the end of my housekeeping for you all. Keep your smiles, and I'm going to hand over to you, Ithalia.
Thank you so much, Akosua. And I think you did mention it, but if you can put your video on, that would be fantastic, just because the audience members can see you as well, and it's always great to just, you know, develop that connection and safety that we have in this space together. So, as I mentioned before, this is our second Spread Your Wings conversation, and a lot has happened since the last conversation last year, where I think last year the conversation was focused mainly on Black dance artists in the North West, and it was really great conversations happened in the room. It was fully online, so it's great to be in the space this year with artists and with our other dance community. Yay! And I think since then, we actually really solidified a partnership with Cheshire Dance during that conversation, which we've been talking about, ways of working together to support culturally diverse artists. And since then, we're now here with the outcome of that conversation and that partnership, which is our Wildfire Rising artists, and I'll get to introduce you to them later on. So that programme is supporting 3 culturally diverse dance artists to develop their work and develop themselves with the support of Cheshire Dance and Movema. So you'll hear more from them later on. Other things that have happened since then is that Movema have, over the 12 years of our existence, we have worked tirelessly educating people about cultural differences whilst also celebrating similarities and differences through our artistry and services. And through all the different things that have happened during lockdown, the resurgence of Black Lives Matter, we made a pledge, like many organisations did, to treat all communities without prejudice, and we commit that through our Movement Promise. So this has been integral to our work since we started, but we made this pledge publicly to kind of put clear, specific and smart outcomes on those things. I won't go through them all now, but it is on our website, and I will share that with everyone after this conversation. But some of the key things that came out of that and piece of work that we're working on is the Wildfire Rising Artists Programme. So we are looking for what will happen next, and we're working with Ink Arts to evaluate the process and look at how we can expand and continue it. Designing and implementing an EDI strategy. So what does it look like in real terms? So what does it look like to our team, to our participants, to our partners? And this conversation is actually part of that. We really want to be responsive to staff training and development by responding to the needs. And since our last conversation that we had, we try as regularly as possible to have open conversations with our team around equality, diversity and inclusion issues. But this is something that, you know, is continuously needed to progress and develop. Mapping of diverse networks, I really feel and hope that this conversation will support the development of that also. But what we pledge to do is that all of the networks that we sit on is that we'll bring the issues that we have with our artist individuals through conversations like this to those tables. We'll use the power and the position that we have as an organisation that has 12 years experience and acknowledgement in the sector to bring the issues of for freelancers that sometimes get lost amongst, strategy. To consult and with our community, our team and clients and wider public. And this again is one of those strands, and we hope that we can continue to have this come back again as an annual event. So just to kind of wrap that up, we want to continue to connect through the power of dance, through a shared moment of joy, a shared moment of humanity, above and beyond any racial or social barriers. And I think we can't do this alone. It's like, I've just been working with an artist in Manchester. It's like, you cannot be human alone. You cannot do this alone. And this is what we really want to kind of move forward with. Okay, I could talk forever, but I'll stop there and I'll pass back to Akosua. You're on mute. Akosua, you're on mute.
It's a tricky part coming off mute.
Yes, it is.
That's always a tricky part. Yes, you click, and it goes on. Alrighty. Hello, Hannah. Nice to see you. Right. So jumping on, Movema in this conversation is providing a platform for culturally diverse artists to share their journey and their current challenges within the industry, how they're progressing, how matters are being addressed or unaddressed, and so forth. This platform enables the voices of artists, their ideas and their visions to be heard and shared with key change makers within the sector. Just to give you a bit of how we're going to process today, we will hear from Amanda Parker of Ink Arts, our special guest for this conversation. Amanda, thank you very much for being with us. We will also give you an opportunity to hear from the artists individually as well, who you will see sitting along with Ithalia within the Movema studio. And we will also then go into a short break thereafter. With the artists, each artist will share and then will be given a short period of time to discuss it further within the conversation before moving on to the next artist. Following the short comfort break, we will go out into breakout rooms to discuss the topics further, topics that the artists have shared with us, and look at how we can together make suggestions and actions that will hopefully work to providing some sort of action that we can take forward. The group discussions, the aim is to share some of the key points and actions, as I've just mentioned. And then we'll ask Paul later on, Paul Smith, Partnership Director of Dance Consortium North West, to give us a closing on the conversation that we've had today. And then thereafter, we will then close the conversation. So now I'm going to hand over to Amanda Parker.
Thank you so much, Akosua, and thank you everyone for having me here.
Amanda, you've frozen. Is everyone frozen?
We can see her moving here. We just
Maybe I should put on NCM, the Wi-Fi.
We started out in 2019 looking at how do we create an inclusive welcome across all creative and cultural practice. No small ambition, and 2020 hit us hard, and what we saw very quickly was the lack of representation and lockdown, pandemic and coronavirus. So our focus became inclusion, but through the lens of ethnicity is how we thought about it. And we do that through diving into lots of conversations with the sector as well as research. And I met Akosua through our first piece of research, I believe, for dance, which was about dancers and pay. We were very interested in not just how much dancers got paid, but how much of the cultural recovery funding would be going to dancers. How involved were dancers in accessing that money, applying for that money, and more widely, how is it for dancers with regard to relationships with Arts Council? And I won't bore you with the stats, but basically what we found in our research was that the stuff that the dance community tends to be younger than the rest of the sector, but the stuff that came out was dancers are also less likely to apply for funding, are lower paid than a lot of the sector, not conclusively. I mean, there are lots of people who are paid very well, and then as an average, dancers are paid less than the average visual artist, for example, over time. Bit difficult to hear, but that is the truth. And what also came up through the research was paying conditions weren't transparent. You're very much left to your own devices to dive in and negotiate often, or your negotiation is done by a third party, which you don't really have detail on the dialogue. Career progression can be very bumpy, again, not for everyone, but as an average, there seem to be repeated barriers for dancers to progress. And once you get into leadership, the in common with the other culturally diverse leaders was the microaggression, the slow progress, the regard for your work, etc., etc. We know all that. So the picture for dance within the wider cultural sector during pandemic was that you're a young cohort, but you're dotted all over lots of different practices. And because of that, there wasn't that clear identity that was needed for effective advocacy. And that's the background, because here we are with Movema and Akosua's work, that's very different. But what it also flagged, what also came very, very clearly through, not just in our work around the research, but in our work around anti-racism across the sector, was that the conversations that were in common with culturally diverse creatives across the sector were overwhelmingly around lack of care, harm caused, and marginalisation. Again, no surprises, but here's the thing. As a result of one particular conference we did, which was an anti-racism conference way back in, I can't even remember, this time last year, we heard 8 hours of 400 creatives, all culturally diverse, witnessing, naming the harm, naming the perpetrators, and importantly, providing mutual support for each other. So that's the first thing that came out of our learning, the need for care and support that is structured, in place, accessible to all, and care that also recognises that younger people and people who have lower incomes are less likely to be able to access it in the first place. As a result of that, we've created In Cart's Minds, which I'm sure someone's going to post in the chat, for anyone who wants to have free counselling support, wants to raise issues and concerns, they are very welcome to book straight into that. We continue to run those. So our first response was free mental health provision for all culturally diverse creatives, because we are the people most harmed and we are the people most likely to access that care. In addition to that, it has also been put into our monitoring programme, which is Unlock, which is about taking all of the recommendations, demands, manifestos that people made during lockdown and holding the sector to account. So that's my other thing I want to drop here. How do we continue to hold the sector to account? Unlock lists 130 odd actions that organisations can take. Within that, there are the Albany Theatre in South East London now has a budget for each individual creative that works with them that they can spend on mental health resource provision. Some organisations work with us to provide that through In Cart's Minds. I think what we can all do very effectively is to make this stuff transparent. when you go on socials and call out, if you do call out, what's also fantastic is to share the intelligence that you gather when you go into a space and you get paid well and when you get treated well, because the more we can say this is how we want to be treated, the better it is for the outcome, because in your next job you can go and say, actually, the Albany does this, what are your thoughts? So building that collective advocacy, building that collective intelligence is super important, and I think a really useful strategy to get the care and support you need. We're not the only ones in the space doing that, of course we're not. I want to give absolute credit and agency to the anti-racism touring rider, which, if you haven't seen it, is also a fantastic model that you might want to consider as a collective body of dancers to create your own terms and conditions for what you need when you go into a space. So the anti-racism touring rider, honest to goodness, I have practiced saying that so often, and I want to call them the anti-touring racism rider. It's not that. It's the anti-racism touring rider. And when you have a look at that, and I will try and put it in the chat, it sets out terms and conditions that everybody needs when they're touring. What's the relationship with the dig? How do you report racism? What's my expectation on first rehearsal? How soon after I arrive can I reasonably be expected to join a rehearsal? Things like that have been articulated. So that's the other thing I'd like to throw into the space. How can we pull from and amplify where others have created really useful guidelines and go, yeah, we want this. I think that's really helpful. I want to jump to ambitions, and please do stop me if I'm talking for too long. We are building Arts Against Racism, a national campaign to take anti-racist action for individuals and organisations. And there's one bit I just wanted to flag in this. There are 5 pillars to the campaign. It's about creating a code of conduct, effective reporting, effective monitoring, like Unlock, but with bells on, how we celebrate and how we engage the wider sector, but also how do we engage and push back against online abuse, and how do we engage with people who either think it's woke nonsense or think it's nothing to do with them. So there's 5 pillars of that campaign. The one I want to drop into this space is the monitor piece, because I've got a bit excited about the secret shopper idea. With respect to taking the best ideas and using them, we've taken the idea which Gratitude is Everything, an organisation that champions disability and creativity, already do, which is their secret shopper, where they send people who are disabled to productions and get feedback from them. If we want change, we should get canny about how we do that feedback. Go in, do the secret shop in terms of your own work practice. What was your onboarding process? What were the rehearsals like? What was the expectations of the team? What information did they give you? What care did they give you for you to do your best work? If we can work together to collate that stuff, that is a huge, huge power to turn it back on the organisation to get their act together. So I am going to wrap up to say, my ask for the sector, what you might want to think about is how to engage with that campaign, and within that, how culturally diverse creatives within that remain our critical friends. Keep pushing and pushing on that campaign and go, it's not enough, it's not enough, it's not enough, we want more. Because the last thing I want is a campaign that lets most people feel like they've done enough. I don't think that's the outcome that we want. We want to keep it current, we want to keep it forward-looking and positive. The ask for me for this audience is to join us in our work and also help us, if you want it, to articulate your needs for Arts Council and other funders. Because I'm really aware that, if I go back to the beginning of what I was saying, dancers are often atomised across so many different creative and cultural practices. So they're often working, collaborating, that's your bread and butter. But how we come together usefully and join forces with other cultural creatives culturally diverse creatives, that would be an incredible power. So how you put dance within the narrative of wider cultural change is super important. So if you're not a part of, say, Freelancers Make Theatre Work, I'd advise that, and to keep ethnicity current in that conversation. They are just one, there are lots of others. And finally, build the intelligence so others know what to look for, what best practice is like. That's not just a calling out, that's a sharing of the good stuff. These are my pain conditions, anyone else finding the same. If you don't want to do it on socials, there are lots of websites where you can share that. So let's all contribute to building that intelligence. Show people what's possible, endorse best practice on social, make the stuff that's hidden, that harms us, transparent, but also join the wider conversations to make the case that we are part of the wider creative cultural sector and we're part of that wider conversation. If I say to you levelling up and socioeconomic diversity in education, they all feel a bit tired and done, but actually done are at the forefront of all of those, and where is that ever articulated? So they're my parting shots. Thank you for having me. I'm so up for this conversation. I hope that's useful and open to questions.
Ithalia, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Amanda. Thank you so much. I guess, you can't really see here, but nodding heads and just that, those issues that you brought up, really, it's great to have those dance issues raised and, like you say, with ethnicity at the forefront. And that is, what, this conversation will hopefully feed into all that, and we can definitely, hopefully, develop our ways of working together to reach those aims together. So now I'd like to take the opportunity to welcome our Northwest-based associate artists, Addae, Sabrina, Xiaowei, and Sheetal, who will be each sharing with you their journey and challenges. But before we hear from them, it would be great just to take time to briefly introduce ourselves here on Zoom in the space, so that we know who's here and who we represent, and we represent ourselves or an organisation, and if applicable to you, what you want to get from today. So it'd be great if we could just go round and share our name and contact and details of that. Does that sound okay, everybody? Yes. I haven't thought of a fabulous way to do this, but maybe if I could start with our present audience, maybe. Is that okay? Can you now? I'm going to. Can everyone see the present audience here on the screen? Yes, you can, can't you? Would anyone like to start? Introduce themselves, just who they are. Yes, maybe you want to come closer. Lauren, see there's lots of space.
I like this.
Okay, she likes to stay there. Go on, just for the sake.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Very nice. Hello, everyone. Online and in real time.
Can you hear? No, you probably can't. You either project or come closer. Oh, the mic, does that work? Yeah.
I need to switch it on. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Here we go. You can pass it round, maybe.
Hello, everybody. Hi. Just to say hello, my name is Lauren. I'm a freelance dance artist, and I work in many different contexts with lots of different artists in collaboration. I work with Tuckshot Dance Theatre and many other things. I also am a freelancer for Movema and Cheshire Dance and many other organisations in the North West. So that's me.
And what do you want to get from today?
I haven't thought about that yet. But I'm sure something will arrive.
Yes. Okay, thanks. Sorry, this is a bit like stand-up now, isn't it, guys? Either pass the mic, yeah? Pass the mic.
It doesn't go anywhere.
Yeah. This is your action part. We're not dancing, so you're going to get to move with that, yeah.
Hello, I'm Catherine, and I'm a project curator from the Blue Cult. I'm here today to support Movema and my friend P, and wanting to understand more about the dance department because I'm from visual art background, so it's here to network and show face and be present to support.
Yes, thank you so much.
Good evening, my name is Alex. I'm from the Business and Intellectual Property Centre. I'm here this evening to catch up with friends. Also, make myself available if anyone's got any questions. In Liverpool Central Library, we've got access to a vast wealth of databases relating especially to applying for grants, for example. So I'm going to leave my contact details with the team here, and you're welcome to catch up with me. The door's always open.
Thank you, Alex. You'll be popular.
Hello everyone, I'm Marianna. I'm a dancer and I just finished my MA at LGMU University. So I'm interested to know everything about the Northwest because I like live in Liverpool and I would like to give any contribution
Yeah.
as a dancer, as a person who lives in this area. So
thank you. It is like stand up. It's coming to stand up.
Yeah. My name is Pei, so I'm a co-founder of Movema. But today I am here to represent myself as a diverse dance artist. Yeah, just want to open up the conversation and then share ideas and having Anicity as a front page to see what we can do and what we can make it better for everyone. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Maxine. I am I'm a multidisciplinary artist, so I work right across lots of different art forms. I could guess most of my work for the last blur years has been focused around, my dance work has been focused around African dance and other Black dance forms and lots of other things. I'm not looking for an outcome for today. I'm just here to represent myself. Thank you.
Thank you, Maxine.
Oh,
yeah. I know, yes. This is the equivalent of the dance.
You can stand up, yeah. You can stand up.
Yes.
Everyone else got it.
Hi, I'm Jane. I'm the creative director at Cheshire Dance. I'm here to listen and to carry on the journey of trying to support the artists and see how we can shift things forward and take action and change how we do things and to advocate where possible beyond Cheshire Dance and beyond the North West.
Yeah. It's all game.
Hiya, my name's Lauren. I'm an associate artist with Movema as well. I've been here for 2 years now. And yeah, it's just great to be part of the conversation and be able to hear as well from my associates and people I work with about their experience and then taking that on for me as an individual and as part of the team to know how to advocate and what changes there need to be, and it's just an important conversation to be part of. So, so anyone else who'd like to take the mic?
I think that's everyone, isn't it?
I think that's
everyone.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much, Lauren. So without further ado, I'm going to hand you over to our first associate artist. I'm going to move out the way so you can take centre stage.
Oh, the Zoom. Zoom? Not.
Oh, sorry. I am so sorry, everybody. I'm going to hand it over to the Zoom. So shall we just go? I'll just do name by name. Yes, Maria Moya. Do you want to say hello? Who you are?
Hello, everybody. Very nice to meet you all. Well, I'm here just to support Movema because I'm taking part of making moves and just support some of my colleagues and Movema. Nice to meet you.
Thank you, Maria. I'm just going to go the person to the right, Hannah.
Hannah's put a short intro in the Zoom, I believe.
Oh, thank you so much. Okay, so just if anyone hasn't seen that, I'll say to our present members, Hannah is artistic director of Soul Rebel, tap dance and creative movement company, also based here at Toxic TV. So you want some Soul Rebel, you know where to come. Thank you, Hannah. Mia Maloney here from Movema.
Hi, I'll say hi. Sorry, I'm not very well. I don't know if you can hear me properly. Yeah, so I'm really thrilled to be here, and thanks to everyone who's put this together. So yeah, I'm one of the co-founders of Movema, specialising in styles from Brazil, Ireland, and India. And I'm here today to understand more about the barriers that are faced by culturally diverse dancers and the dance styles as well that we will work with, and to find ways forward how we can reach their potential and build the world of dance that we all want to live in, and that's equal and inclusive.
Thank you.
Sense. My brain's a bit foggy.
Thank you, Maria. Great that you could join. Kofi, can I go to you next, please?
Kofi, I sit on the board of Movema, and so help the organisation push forward. It's great to see you all this evening. What I'm looking to get out of it is to understand more about how to support artists so that I can do the same for Movema. Thank you.
Thank you, Kofi. Patricia. Maybe she has the video off. I don't know if you. Hello. You're on mute, sweetheart.
Hi. So I hope everyone is okay. So I'm here because I would like to hear you all. I didn't have an idea what was about today. So far it's really interesting to be able to support, to support each other as a community of dancers. I am dancer practitioner for Movema and for a lot of other companies, and I'm very grateful to be part of Movema practitioners, and I'm very honored to work for them. So it's really exciting that this come all together. So yes, so I'm not going to be here until the end because I'm doing a course. So I just wanted to let you know that at some point I'm going to leave. Okay.
Thank you so much. Paul.
Hello, I'm Paul Smith. I'm the Partnerships Director at Dance Consortium North West, which is probably exactly what you think it is. It's a group of artists, organisations, venues, universities, but people mostly, who are trying to make the environment and our circumstances better for dance in the Northwest. So I'm here with a view to creating connections, and also to do a bit what like Unlock has done to try to identify actions and start some actions that can improve our situation. Or at least that's what I was here until I saw Pay's socks, and now I've added to my list, find out where she got the socks and get some of those as well.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I know, Amanda, you've introduced yourself, so thank you for that. Akosua?
Everyone, my name is Akosua Boakye. I'm a dance practitioner whose portfolio career spans from primary right through to university level teaching dance and performing arts. My background is also within dance as well as performing arts, and I work within the community, within education, and also within theatre. I've known Ithalia and Movema for a very long time, and in recent years, we've started working together in some ways, particularly in conversations like this as well. And I'm very much interested in empowering artists, individuals, companies to ensure that their voices are heard, to ensure that they kind of get the kind of guidance that they need to progress in their careers, and also to support and develop what it is that they are working towards.
Thank you so much. Just so you know, Philip won't be introduced himself. He's our sound guy. Just in case you wondered who the drummer was. Oh, we have someone else who's just joining us. But I'm aware of time to our first artist who's going to speak, Addae. So I'm going to move out of the way, and he's going to.
Addae, just as you start, you'll have about 10 minutes. This includes your introduction and the opportunity for us to open the floor to discuss as well. And I will action you when there is 5 minutes left of your time in your discussion and 2 minutes left of your time in discussion as well. So over to you.
All right, thank you. Because I'm the first, we are doing the musical chairs thing. Great. Hi, good evening, everybody. My name is Addae. All right, I'm not one for wanting to speak about himself very much. I try to make things, you know, if you experience for yourself, and however that happens, that happens. My best way to introduce myself is how I got here and how I got to dance. I'm not a traditional person. I didn't grow up interested in dance. All right, I started off as a visual artist. I designed carnival costumes. My voice is distinctly Caribbean, specifically Trinidad. And I built a reputation for myself making carnival costumes. I won King of Carnival maybe a couple of years before I came here. I'm only in the UK about 5 years. And I got into dance because from making costumes, I told myself, what if I understand how the body moves? Maybe I could just have a little edge with what I'm doing visually, understanding how the body moves, how a body would move in a costume, how to extend the story that you want to tell through that. And there I was, maybe 20s, I think, and just off of the rugby field, doing modern dance secretly because I didn't want any of my friends to know that I'm on the other side of campus doing this thing. But every day I'm in pain because of all these positions that my foot had to be in and all this sort of stuff. So that said, that's kind of how I got to dance, and it was almost like this love-hate relationship. So I don't particularly consider myself a dancer because I fell already in love with trying to tell that story. I see dance as a ritual that we may have lost, something that we're trying to find, and I'm definitely into exploring that. And you know, I always think that there's a combination of movement and sound and visual thing that we do that's going to make us whole. And every day we're trying to find that. Every single day we're trying to find that, depending on what you put on. And you won't leave the house unless you have something on, and you walk a certain way and all these things. I believe that all these things work for a purpose, and that's how I approach my my art, if that's how I want to describe it. What else am I supposed to talk about? I know it's not. Oh, okay. Truth be told. All right. I'm not a funny person. I don't know why people are laughing. I'm not that kind of person. I think that I'm the most boring person. But truth be told, I had excellent questions. I don't remember what they are. I am the type of person like, you just come here and I am willing to share kind of my. Is that it?
Do you want me to share?
Yeah, I don't mind. Yeah.
Or you can just do what you want to do.
Okay.
This is what you do.
Yes. All right. Fantastic. So a lot of my work deals with a lot of my child understanding. I don't want to call it work, but a lot of my child understanding is understand how Black bodies in particular move and how we move in the future. You know, and not just move as in dance, but move through space and how these kind of things tell stories. And you know, they always say the victors tell the stories, and what stories are we telling? You know, are we winning, or do we think we're winning, or was there a point in time where we did have this kind of thing? And all what I'm trying to do is to explore that. I remember one of my questions here was trying to craft a cultural, trying to craft identity as choreography, you know, trying to figure out where you fit, because I came into this place and when I first heard of a dance commission, I've never heard those two words put together in my life, because I never thought that people got commissioned to do dance. The people that did dance was people had nothing else to do, whose parents were so rich that they let them do whatever they want to do. And then, you know, these are people who end up going to dance school in maybe a Mercedes and stuff like that. So when I entered university, so it's either that or you're in the country, and the only thing that happens is a dance teacher comes twice a week. And, you know, but there is a strong history of dance that I want to bring out of the Caribbean. You know, I'm here because of, I think there's a lot of expression. And when I say I'm here because I've seen and I've felt the magic that has come from that. And I've seen and I felt where it has gone to, like, and exploring the movement from the African diaspora, from the Asian diaspora, and how that's translated in the Caribbean. You know, most of our dancers have French names, even though they're on French moves. You know, all of these things I'm trying to explore myself and try to find one way to come up. And one of the things that was spoken a little bit before was about support. And it was mentioned how dance supports a lot of other cultural expressions. We learn to do everything. So if I want to do a dance, I am quite capable of mixing the music to doing the set to everything that has to be a part of it. And part of my identity is giving me, someone like me, the space to do it, you know? And when I talk about choreographing a cultural identity, is that I constantly feel that, not to complain, but you're pushing against what someone else's expectations are. You know, it's a lot about, yeah. So yeah, that's it. I have more to say, but I rather let this grow a little organically, because I feel that I'm not that good at talking about myself in that way. You know, any questions about anything?
Can I also just add the other thing that's linked to what you were talking about, is that like you wanted to ask around how do we meet artists where they are, considering their stage of development and artistry needs. I think that really links in with all the things that you've been talking about. So that's the question that you were exploring the other day, and maybe.
Yeah, it does. Well, I think I just said it a different way. You know, again, I come from the place where you try to support yourself, and I'm come here, and then people are trying to help in maybe ways that you're not sure that you want help in that way, you know? And there's always a space where, yes, you fit a certain dynamic, but there's this time where you want to be, everybody wants to listen, but nobody wants to hear, if that makes sense, you know? Yeah, I would just like to open up the questions. I'm more in the sense of let's share for 3 minutes, or how much of a time I have left.
Lucy, are you going to any questions?
I mean, I think Addae, I know you've just spoken. I'd also like to open it to the floor and to Addae, in a sense that, you know, you talk about Black bodies moving through space and how we move through space, and artists meeting or meeting artists as to where they are in time or where they are in their careers. Is there space, I would say, made for global majority artists, artists of Black and Asian heritage on the dance platform, for example. And that's, for me, drawing from much of what you have talked about just now, Addae, as well. Do we feel that?
All right, so thanks for the question. When I think of space, I think of two things. So there is space where you may say career space, but then there's space where I think there's also that mental space. And when you talk about you want to have that space to maybe meet artists where they are, where is that artist maybe in their career, but also what are these steps that you took to get there? Because again, when I come here and I said, okay, I didn't study in London, I studied at the University of the West Indies. That's a kind of a thing. I don't have that support or the translation of what that degree was or what that education was. It's totally different. I have felt that the value, and I tend to stick on that word, the value of artists who are intrinsically different is often brushed aside.
Would anybody else like to comment on that very last, very important point? Artists who are different from what we may consider to be the norm, or the sector, or the industry might consider to be the norm, are brushed aside. Yes.
Oh, I just saw Iris open her mic. I don't know if Iris was just about to say something.
No, that's fine. I kind of want to share more about the idea of the safe space, because I have a very interesting story that's very recent. So go on about, please carry on about the value, and perhaps I'll share that story after.
I'm really struck by differences brushed aside. Everyone wants to listen and no one wants to hear. I'm really struck by that. And I think that what you're talking about, what you could call a kind of a rush towards the middle ground, is very, very true and very real across culture, across protected characteristics, and actually across creative practice. I think what you have in common, that being brushed aside, is your marginalisation. That sounds so obvious to say, but my point is that's not a dance-specific feeling. I think it's a protected characteristic and otherness-specific feeling that you feel in dance. And that's the stuff where I go, I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. I'm really struck by you, and I really get it, that if your practice is movement-based, the last thing you want to do is engage in the talk. That's not what you came for, right? And at the same time, that's the thing that makes dancers lost in the mix when we're looking at the in-commons. And it drives me nuts. I have to say, it drives me absolutely mad that the wider sector can't get that simple thing. You talk to a visual artist, they can express themselves visually, and everyone goes, oh, I get it. And you talk to dancers, and people go, oh, sorry, can't quite see what you're trying to get because you're not putting it in the language that we get. So I would say that difference is brushed aside. It's really helpful to go, how do we pool our difference? How do we get collective about that difference? And more than that, how do we set out what you need to do to engage with us and that difference? And that feels like the heavy lifting. And it's a shame that there is heavy lifting, but there is a little degree of people don't, if they're brushing you aside, they're not paying attention to those details. So some of it you have to kind of spell out and go, no, my terms of engagement are these, this is what you need to do. Is that making sense?
Yeah, it makes sense. I feel that way. Like, again, I try to make space, where there isn't space, I try to make space. And I make very little apologies for doing that. But yeah, I think what it is quite close to what the experience is.
Right. So what you're saying about being brushed aside, I've done a lot of talks on this, and it's all called. I have a whole thing called Sideline, where it's that. So I don't personally think it's the dance or the dancers; it's the dance forms that get pushed aside. You look at white dance, predominantly ballet and contemporary dance. Those dance forms are not sidelined; they're not pushed aside. When it comes to anything outside of that, then it's pushed aside. Black dance in particular is totally sidelined and pushed aside. So for me, it's not just about being the dancer or, it's the dance forms. I don't know.
I think that's quite correct, because I see that because a few weeks ago, Sheetal here, who is also on panel with me, had if I can share, she had a masterclass for us, and the comments from the other dancers who didn't particularly know what she was doing, or it's outside of their wheelhouse. There were comments that wouldn't fly by me, weren't necessarily positive. It weren't like, oh, this is something new, I'm trying to understand this. It was more like, this is not for me to do, or this, it came across like this wasn't valid, So I think it's that kind of, unfortunate. This is unfortunate. As I said, for me, it all comes down to value and how we value things.
I'd like to step in and remind us, first of all, of time. Whenever we start these conversations, there's never enough time. But I would step to disagree with the point that's made about the dance forms. And one of the reasons why I'm disagreeing with that is that, yes, the dance forms are brushed aside, but also, as an artist who's been in the sector for nearly 30 years, the dancers, the artists practicing those forms, whether that form is a contemporized Western form and so forth, are also brushed aside. I'm talking from my personal lived experience as somebody who teaches contemporary dance, so forth. Somebody who also teaches the African dance forms as well. That is not just the forms. And this is why I think there are issues surrounding this aspect of, we wouldn't be talking about diversity and inclusion if individuals who practice, whether it's ballet or whether it's contemporary or any of the other dances, weren't being brushed aside. And I think, other artists who are actually sitting in this conversation now won't be asking about themselves as global minorities also, who are being brushed aside for their own practice as well. So that's why I would disagree with that point in Thea. I'd like to pause there because we really need to move on to our next artist, and we will have more time to discuss each artist's provocation within the breakout rooms as well. And we have our next individual, Ithalia. Is that Sabrina?
Hi, I'm Sabrina. I'm currently working with Movema as a freelance dancer. I'm on the Wildfire Rising Programme as well. I'm 38 and I have 2 children. I have come through some barriers coming up as a child, basically just having no money as a low-income family, just not being able to go to any ballet classes, any jazz classes, until I found Castleless Dance Group. My mum wouldn't let me go to dance. She just couldn't afford it. We were just left. I was always like outside, starting to choreograph from like the age of 8, outside choreographing with my friends, forming our own dance troupes, literally going to competitions to pay for classes. And yeah, so I found Castleless, who was running funding, and it was literally 50 pence to go to a class. And my dance teacher was Alicia Smith, and she was the one who just inspired me to become who I am today. Also, yeah, I basically worked with MDI as well. And from then on, I found the love of dance and basically started doing ballet, tap, jazz, and basically for free. And I found my struggle was I was quite embarrassed going into them style of classes because obviously a lot of children were able to have, you know, the ballet shoes and stuff, and I was going to my dance teachers, and my dance teacher was passing me hand-me-downs, or my friends were giving me hand-me-downs, and that's where I was because obviously I couldn't get the money off my mum. And for myself, I just loved to just dance. I just wanted to dance. It was a stress relief for me. It helped combat mental health. There was a lot of struggles in my family home. It was a way to break away from everything that was there, that was inside my house and my family life and personal life. And it just, but to find something like that was just like unbelievable. I was like absolutely overwhelmed. And then I began my journey going to a theatre school. I decided that that was what I wanted to do, was to be in theatre, until I decided that I was not fitting in. I was told that I weren't the right body shape. I had an arch in my back and I was not balletic at all. I was never going to be a prima ballerina. I was put at the back of the class, and I was totally just like dismissed where they come to shows. And then I just left. I left that whole world and I thought, this isn't for me. It's not what I want to do. And then what I did was I went down the African and street dance route, and I felt that's where I needed to be. I was connected with my roots, where my background, where I came from, and I continued that. But yeah, I just, like I say, I just felt really, really overwhelmed by the whole experience. And like, for me, trying to cope with having a child at 19, not able to have like enough training, have the confidence to go up there and actually, you know, get more training for myself in those areas based on what happened to me when I was like 16, 17. And so I just decided that I was just going to stay with street crews. So I lacked in training and literally didn't do any ballet or whatever for, I haven't done it now for the last, I'd say 20 years. And I'm now starting to go back into doing that now. And like I say, for the struggle for me, it was mainly like being in a low income family and not able to like be able to get what my friend who was going to like a prestigious dance school was able to get. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's me. And I would like to ask a question, and my question is, how can we help artists access further training and support, especially, you know, young artists if they are young mums and young parents? That's my question. Thank you.
Lucia?
Hello. Thank you, Sabrina. We'll put it out there to everyone. I mean, and as we put it out there, I want to remind us something that Amanda mentioned earlier on about transparency, openness, sharing, coming together to actually say, well, I know this because, you know, I know this organization is doing this organization is doing that, and because information is out there. At the end of the day, when it comes to financing dance and so forth, your story is so familiar, so familiar, and it has a lot to do with why I have set up the company that I have set up in supporting young people to engage in dance. But I'd like to open the floor for other people if they, you know, people have thoughts and suggestions and so forth in regards to the question that's been put.
Anyone from the audience has a question, we're going to bring the mic as close as possible. Thank you, Lucia. Any questions or response to Sabrina's?
I don't know what I meant to. Oh, someone's gone on Zoom. Zoom on first. Someone went. on Zoom. Can I go?
Yeah,
come on.
Jane. Yes.
Okay. No, just Sabrina and I were talking earlier, and about the work that Sabrina is doing now is about working with the young people who were the young people that she was when she was a young person, and how challenging that is for her, because it hasn't been a way to make money, and that's added more pressure onto her life. So she wants to be the person that's supporting the young people, but who's supporting her? And how do the artists who want to do that work, who perhaps come from that background and haven't had a traditional training route or learn about specific things like certain ways of funding, how do they do that, and how do they get supported for doing that really important work? I think is what we that's what we were discussing. I don't have an answer.
It's interesting. Go ahead, Iris.
Sorry, hi. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you, but I personally don't know of any correct answer for your question, or a good answer. Let's put it that way. What I can tell you is that I think what I found, at least, is that there are so many systems and ways when you are unemployed that you can get a course and get skills and extra skills in various areas. But when it comes to dance, this is not treated in the same manner. And particularly, certainly if you are an independent practitioner and you don't have the experience, or you haven't gone down the route of ballet and company work or contemporary company work, then it has a lot more support. I think this is something that's being thought about a little bit more now on different levels. I know that the CDC has some programs, but on a different level when you are older, not necessarily for the younger ones. But there are, companies sprouting and kind of offering that kind of support. I think personally, I feel that financial knowledge and financial know-how should really be taught at any level at schools, in terms of understanding how to have a multiple streams of income, and how to finance, how to manage your finances in such a way that you can obviously find solutions to, support your career choices. And this is not really taught. Even now, I feel, unless something has changed, at the moment, even in dance education, this doesn't happen as much. And I think it's something that I personally had to learn quite late. And once I did learn about it, though, it opened up a different kind of knowledge to me, in the sense of financing my own projects and actually having more choice about the kind of routes that I wanted to take. So I think financial knowledge at all levels, be it a dance education or formal education, needs to be more taught personally. And that could be perhaps a door to open up to more solutions for your question.
Thank you for bearing with me.
I'm just going to
dinner time. I first of all want to go, wow, what credit to you for finding your love and your joy through all of that hardship, and also making that something that gives joy to others. I think that's, I'm so moved by that, and I'm so it also makes me kind of cross what you say, that this is still happening, because I'm 500 years old and you've kind of told my story, and it makes me furious that this happens. And again, I'm going to say, I know it's not for everyone, but there may be different ways of doing this. Collective lobbying. I'm looking at, where is dancers' presence in other networks, right? where are dancers reflected in organisations like Creative Access, which is not about performance, but is about careers in the creative and cultural sector? Where is dancers' representation to Creative Access to say, actually, here's a particular case, we need you to have a particular lens on this? And I'll tell you why. What you have up your sleeve is the stuff I was talking about before. Government and everyone else is banging on about socioeconomic need, right? You've centred your story not around ethnicity, not around culture, but around socioeconomic need. And the whole levelling up agenda and socioeconomic need and inclusion is one and the same story, right? So the fact that dancers are young, they aid social cohesion, they help regeneration, they help young people engage in everything from education to their communities. You're doing the heavy lifting. Where are dancers in that narrative, right? So thinking about how you've said that, you know, dancers aren't necessarily the talkers, but there are those other agencies where you can say and make a case for dance being heard as a case study, as an example of how it works. You know, you were outside on the streets, outside the ballet class. I mean, you know, what clearer example could you have of keeping people out of trouble through dance? Do you know what I mean? So I would ask you to look at those other networks, Creative Access around careers and young people. There's a story to be told and a connection to be made around dance. I'm looking at your presence in PIPA, Parents and Carers in Performance Arts. That exists. Is dance and socioeconomic need reflected in that clearly? If not, send them a tweet online and ask them so that someone has to think about it. I'm looking at Dance Career Development, another organisation that I always trip over and think they call something else, but it is Dancers Career Development, isn't it? Yeah. And I don't have the details of the structure of its organisation, but forgive me if I get this wrong, but I think that it's a membership organisation, is that right? Yeah. And I've understood, and I may have got this completely wrong, that you have to join to get the help. So there's a point here about
just on
the
that,
disadvantage.
sorry, I think just with DCD you can access help. I know I had a conversation with the chief executive of DCD about how you know, it reached out to all dancers because it supports any dancer who has had a professional career, but then the majority of the dancers they support are through the European forms, ballet and contemporary. So it's about really challenging that as well, and also challenging the people that they.
That's perfect, because that's exactly what I was going to go to, that if there is an organisation that is set up to do this thing, and thank you for the detail on the structure, then there needs to be a particular focus on that socioeconomic piece and what can they do about that. Great that you can help forms that are well supported or even adequately supported or even a little bit supported, but what about the forms and the people that aren't? If you're the organisation, what can you do? So get others to do the advocacy for the gap in their thinking, right? So make the suggestion to help them, the people who are the strategists, to work out what they need to do. So collective lobbying is what I want to leave you with. Where are the places you can put useful questions on social for other people to pick up on? Where are places where you can ask difficult questions for other people who have to answer it? I'm looking at Arts Council. I'm looking at you working with other culturally diverse creatives to say, shouldn't special provision be made for us, special funding or access be made because we're already at a disadvantage? And that needs collective voice, because dance is, as somebody has said, Iris just posted, dance as a whole seems to be at the bottom of the performing arts hierarchy. And if that's the case, then elite allyship needs to be built between theatre practitioners, visual artists, who you work with anyway. You know, the creatives get it. The creatives in the space get it. The people who run those organisations may not.
There's an English one case. I'm going to stop talking. Thank you, Amanda. Can I just say we are terrible with time today, simply because it wasn't given enough. There's so much being shared, so much given from Amanda and from you all, and our voices need to be heard. But just to mention that. And Sabrina, I think you yourself are a case study that would be and can be funded if you maybe can connect with Movement to find out how this can be written and communicated in order to get financial support to develop your career. I'm going to want to jump on, Ithalia, is that all right?
Yes, and any questions that you want to ask, we can bring them up in the breakout rooms about that. Okay.
Problem, yes, correct. Okay, so I think we've got Xiaowei next. Is that my correct pronunciation of your name? Please do correct me if it's wrong.
It is, yeah, it is correct.
So once again, the 10 minutes also includes the floor time for us to talk a little bit. And I'm going to throw you into it right now and start my clock.
Yeah, I'll try to be as short as possible. Well, I thought I was prepared and my mind was clear, but suddenly my mind just gone blank, and then I thought I'm just going to improvise. Yeah, my name's Xiaowei, and I'm a dance practitioner based in Manchester at the moment. Originally came from China. I started to learn dance when I was around 8 years old, and then just been dancing until now. I graduated from a dance school, professional dance school in China, and after I graduated, it was a coincidence for me to come to the UK. And I thought I just wanted to see the world. I didn't think much when I came to the UK. And then here now, I want to say I'm a proud Chinese woman, proudly living in the UK. I really enjoy the life here. I'm still trying to find myself in this community in the UK through my profession, my passion for dance as well. When I first arrived in the UK, I did a business and management H&D degree in Wigan. There wasn't a chance for me to carry on study dance when I first came to the UK. And I think that's back in 2007. And then I just didn't know that I can go to a different country to carry on study dance, because I'm trained as a classical and folk dance, Chinese folk dance, classical Chinese and Chinese folk dance. That's my background. And I just don't know where can I still carry on do this kind of dance in a different country. So my knowledge was in the UK is all about ballet and contemporary. I'm not from this kind of background, but if I go to the UK, how am I going to carry on dancing? And then that's why and then I did a different degree to dance. And then during the time of study, I feel like I cannot give up dancing. I still want to dance. It's kind of like built into me already. I just want to carry on, and I couldn't find a place that allows me to express my skills that I already have. And I found it was at that time it was quite difficult to fit in the local dance world, the dance industry as well, because I don't have that. Well, I know a little bit ballet because Chinese classical dance is partly influenced by the Russian ballet, but I know a little bit, but I don't feel like I'm qualified to do ballet in the UK. So the reason of this, and then I still want to dance, and then I started to do my own teaching classes in teaching Chinese dance in Manchester. And I had 3 students at that time, and my language skills was horrible at that time. I couldn't speak a proper English. I still cannot do fully well at the moment. I I was really struggled at that time with the 3 students. I'm not able to afford the studio cost, so I have to do some part-time works and working in the restaurant, and to be able to afford myself to teach Chinese dance, or even just for me to practice Chinese dance. But at that time, I felt very lonely because there's no one I can share, I can really talk to about my profession. But I still, at the same time, I still really enjoy the time in the UK, still enjoy living in the UK, the lifestyle, the people around here. But just that kind of profession in me that I feel like I couldn't find someone to share with. People, every time when I do Chinese dance, when I perform, I try to take as many performance opportunity, but there wasn't a lot. When I perform, people would appreciate Chinese dance, appreciate this kind of style, but people don't really understand, or they don't really want to come to my class. I didn't know the reason at that time. I'm still looking for the reason nowadays, I think, at this stage. I think, and then after about 4 or 5 years, and then things starting to get better, I'm starting to know more people in the community. And then suddenly a lot of Chinese students, overseas students, they saw my classes, and then they starting to come to my classes. And that's when the dance classes starting to get really popular in the community. But that's very particularly within the Chinese community still in the UK, for the Chinese community in the UK. I'm quite appreciated that way, because we do have a lot of Chinese populations in the UK, even living here, studying here, that I do feel like I'm doing good things to making them feel like they are found a little bit home kind of taste. But at the same time, I feel I want to express that a bit more, rather than just for the Chinese people. Yeah, I want to share that the beauty of what I've learned a bit more to the wider community. Okay, so I'm still talking too much. Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So well, that's just, I don't think like I'm able to introduce the whole me within 5 minutes. So that's just a bit of a brief of me. And then at this stage now, thanks COVID, I come back to uni after 10 years practicing in the industry. And I come back to uni and did a MA degree, and that's where I met Pei, Movema, Ithalia, and Jane from Cheshire Dance. I met all these brilliant artists, and then I can really communicate further and deeper about what I'm passionate about, what I'm really searching for. And I'm going to carry on, do research with a PhD with this topic. Yeah, I think it's the opportunities for Chinese dance in the UK, for Chinese dance background artists in the UK to find more opportunity to communicate with each other. That's what I'm really looking for, and that is my question. It's my question is how to create opportunities in the UK and in China for artists with Chinese dance background like me, someone like me, to communicate really between. Am I all making sense?
Yes.
Yeah?
Thank you, Xiaowei.
Got a question, throwing back at you with your question. What did you do different to be seen by your community when you talked about the fact that more Chinese dancers now were coming to your classes and things started to change? What had you done different that you weren't doing before?
I think I've just reached out to the Chinese student union to promote a bit my classes to the Chinese students. Yeah.
And are you aware of other organizations as well, like the UK Chinese Performing Arts organization?
Yeah, I do aware some of these different organizations. There are many of them actually in London, North West, and Liverpool, in Sheffield, Manchester. There's quite a few of them. Yeah.
I will share this with you, and I'm sharing it in expression of how difficult it still is, even though for me, through my lived experience, that's the path that I have taken. Personally, I think we give too much credit to ballet. That's me, and I'm putting it out there. I say that simply because it is not the only art form. When it comes to valuing dance and so forth, and dance from other cultures and that, you know, the dancing body is a cultural body, and it's from around the world. And every culture, as you know, has dance. And every culture's dance form should be encouraged and should be respected within the sense. And I think that if we, as artists and as individuals, feel that the platform doesn't have something that we desire, it is up to us to change the narrative, to change the conversation. So I will definitely, from my heart of heart, put out to you and say that where you see that there is no presence of you, what is it that you desire? What is it that you want? Where it comes to technology, people are creating apps in order to communicate and in order to provide their services. What would you like to see that isn't? And can you do that yourself? And already it sounds like there's a path that you've taken, you know, to start that journey. But it might mean continuing to reach out, because at the end of the day, it is quite difficult. We need to jump onto the next artist because of time. And if we now can move on to Sheetal.
Hello, hi everybody. So I'm Sheetal. I'm associate artist for Movema and Milap. Sheetal Maru is my name. I'm also known as Sita. So I've been an artist for now about 11 years. 11 years. And I've made it this far. Had a little bit of a moment where I felt like having a career in dance wasn't sustainable. But anyway, here I am. So I am a multidisciplinary artist. So I specialize in dance, especially Indian dance styles, and I'm also a makeup and hair artist as well. My experience ranges from all different parts of the industries, from like education to community to health sectors to doing a bit of commercial work. So that's a little bit about what I do. So my training journey, I actually went to London Contemporary Dance School to audition. I wanted to take the South Asian strand, so they have a South Asian strand. So if you do, for example, Kathak or Bharatanatyam, you can do a contemporary dance course there, but have that as your basis, your training background. And they also have a ballet strand. And hey ho, I got an audition and I turned up. This was just over 10 years ago. And I got shoved into the ballet audition because I was like, you know, the minority was probably one. In fact, I think I was the only person there that had applied for that strand. Hence why I got, you know, shoved into the ballet audition. And I made it through to they do like a body check and whatever. I don't know if that still exists today, but that's what happened at the time. And then it was just like, okay, you've got really far now, so it's either a yes or a no. And unfortunately, it was like shattering of my dreams. I really wanted to go there, and then they were like, no. They didn't actually run the course that year because I think they didn't get enough prospective students to apply. And then went on to John Moores University over in Liverpool because I was like, I need to keep training, and then ended up staying there and qualifying as a professional artist. So Bharatanatyam or South is a South Asian dance form, and that's sort of like my training background. Now, when I went to, I can just see Maria Malone's like really smiley face, and it's making me laugh on her profile picture. What I found was when I had graduated from university with a degree in performance and choreography, at the same time it was like I had no opportunities as an artist, or there was no support organizations that I could go to who were familiar with my training, who were familiar with the South Asian sort of dance form, like let alone have an understanding of what's required to train in that dance style. But there was just nobody to go to here in the Northwest. And to figure out, okay, what next? How can I get involved? How can I develop myself? How can I start functioning as an artist? So in my career, I met Movema. In fact, I was headhunted by Movema, but it was just, because of Movema, I would say that my career has been fruitful up to this day. But without that, like, I don't know if it would have been. Yeah, and ballet is always, there's a hierarchy, there is a hierarchy in dance. So my question is, so much funding, so much money, so much importance, like Akosua, you said before, is given to ballet. I even, trained in it unknowingly. Like when I reflect on it now, I used to use my EMA at college to pay for my ballet lessons, and because I was like, no, you have to do ballet. You have to. If you want to be a professional dancer, you want to be good at dance, you should do ballet. Because that's how much importance is put into it. But I had a whole life of experience, even up to the age of 15, of doing so many Indian dance styles under my belt. So it was almost like unknowingly devaluing them just to go and do ballet. I mean, I'm grateful I did ballet. It's very beneficial, but also not devalue what you already have. So much importance is given to that. So how do we break down this kind of like hierarchical kind of system, this colonization of dance, of ballet right at the top, and make it more inclusive and more rounded and holistic. And also another sort of part B in my question is, if another Sheetal comes along, graduates from university, it would have been great to have, this is what I didn't mention, sorry, this is how my brain works. So I had graduated from university, whatever, but to have any experience, opportunity in actually going to continue training in Bharatanatyam, in the actual dance form that I really wanted to make the center of my work, I had to go and join a youth dance company, even after being qualifying from university as a professional dancer. So that's how much of a lack of opportunities there were, and still there is. That's still the case even to this day, 10 years later. And just if I didn't do that, if I didn't join a youth dance company my Bharatanatyam teacher used to run and still does, I wouldn't have had any access to any training, and I had to pay for my own, travel to get there and get paid for any of the work that I did, the amount of hours of rehearsals that you've put into just to go and experience and train and develop in this dance form. But I had to do it, and that, no wonder like dancers don't feel like, sometimes dance is a sustainable career, because it's like I can't afford to go and get myself into 3 years of a degree worth of debt, and then also go and put all my time and energy into a youth dance company, So my question is, what organizations, what development training opportunities, especially for South Asian dancers, are there available, and what can be done about that? So there's two questions there.
I think, can we take a quick sort of 3-minute comfort break and then come back into breakout rooms, for example, if we take Sheetal's conversation into the breakout rooms, would that be okay?
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you so much. So just 5-minute comfort break, everyone. If you need to to the bathroom there upstairs. Here, if you want to grab a drink, there's aunties there at the bar. And if you're at home, you can go and grab a drink in your own kitchen. Yeah, okay. See you in 5
Yes.
or 4 minutes and a half.
Yes. All righty.
They didn't give it to me.
Go down, 10
And I
minutes,
also have
go
another
down.
class, open class where I'm just
Do
going.
I need some water?
Dance. Any buildings, everything have to go on. Yeah, I go. Yeah. So. Yeah.
I've been here for 5 years.
Thank you so much. Okay, so yeah.
Sure. Yeah. 幾時走啊？哦，That's one of the things that you what we're doing here today. Xiaowei is the artist in your group. And it's really to continue those conversations around what Xiaowei was talking about, and also release. Can you hear me okay? And then also maybe have a discussion and see are there any actions that can be agreed on within our group to be shared with the wider group in about 8.5 minutes. And the idea is that so that these conversations aren't just conversations, one that's really useful to you on specific outcomes that we can monitor and act on. Is that clear, everybody? Thank you so much. I'm going to be giving you hand on our Xiaowei. And if Maria maybe I want to join Okay, so in this room we have who's an artist?
Yes,
Sabrina, what's Sabrina? She's in the
So people in the room, should we come back together?
Yeah, and Sabrina's just on the low. We've got about 7 minutes.
Yeah, start the conversation.
Guys, just because everyone just wants to chat amongst themselves. So we're just going to have a group conversation around Sabrina's, what Sabrina talked about. She's just gone to the low, but we're going to come back. But yeah, really just so that the point of this is so that our conversations that we have don't just dissipate to nothing. We create actions, we create specific action points that when we come to next Spread Your Wings, we can go, we raised this, we actioned this, or we didn't action this, and this is why. So we can keep monitoring and reviewing what the issues are and how we progress and how we haven't. So I'm kind of being, I know Sabrina's not here, but when she does return, she really talked about financial restrictions on her development as an artist. So coming from a low-income family, where being a young mum and not really being accepted into the initial kind of dance education that she engaged in. Where does she go? What do we want to talk about? I know Peg, you had a comment as well.
Yeah. I want to throw another question on top of her questions.
Yeah.
It's good that she was going through that journey and then now she wants to look after someone that like her. But at the same time, who's going to look after her now? Like until this like older dancer, which is same as me, where do you get the training? Because there's not loads of funding, but there is funding there for 16 and 25. And who from 25 and above? If people that come through the career a bit later in the journey, because they struggle previously, how did they get training? I have to go back to college, but you can't ask people 40-year-old go back to college to mix with 18-year-old. It's not the same kind of education. It's not what they want, but there's no platform for mature students to want to have a dancing career.
Especially if finances are the restriction. Because it costs money to do a degree. It's like £9,000, isn't it? Or £6,000, or to do
£9,000 for 1 year.
Yeah. Or do you want another degree? Degree is not what they want. They want training. Like what Sabrina now, you don't want to, if I got money to put you back to degree, you don't want to do a degree. You want to do dance training, that what you missed out when you were younger. But there's none there at all.
I think, before we continue, can I just agree someone is going to reiterate this to the wider group? Don't want it to be me, because you've already heard my voice, and I need to just switch in between groups as well. Is that okay? I know Lauren has a point there as well.
Yeah, it sort of comes through a range of experiences that I've had recently. I went into the University of Salford, and I was commissioned to make a piece of work. And just through logistics, I wasn't available to give full capacity, so I collaborated with my mate Tash. And I realised that Tash doesn't have a degree. She went 2 years to the community college, and then she's bounced from job to job to job performing. And we were talking around sort of what's the alternative to a degree for someone who wants to now go into teaching or making, who had a performing career but still wants to learn, but is slightly, and it's probably due to her background, slightly afraid of big words, and she will go, no, don't speak academic to me. I have a little bit of it as well at times. I've really worked to get over that. And there is something around, what are the alternatives in career progressions that aren't academic? I've tried an MA twice, and maybe third time lucky, but there is that kind of, what else is out there? 12 degrees for me was great because I could still work alongside it, and it felt like postgraduate training, but I could still go my bread and butter to be able to keep going. So yeah, that's my thoughts. How can you progress without it being, it's still valued, but not your traditional pieces of paper goals?
For me, there's something about what like organisations can do in terms of like I guess like almost like apprenticeships or training, but then it's paid so that people learn on the job whilst they're paid to be doing that training, which I think isn't common in dance, maybe not in the arts. Like our whole culture has always been, you have to invest in your professional development, you need to pay to go on this course, you need to pay to go on that course. Go and do that opportunity, it's for free. But that just means that the people that manage to do all that stuff are the people that have the finances or the background.
Don't, but are working in a bar or
exactly
the time
with you, Lauren.
Yeah.
So
I was going to suggest, because I'm from a visual art background, and we have fully funded residency that you get paid for 4 weeks or a whole month to do whatever you wanted to do. It's still under, I think this sort of paid residency is still like very rare opportunity. It's very competitive to get into.
At least it's there. It's there. At least it's there. There's not. I don't think there is.
I feel like this is something to bring up to British Council, and all of the questions that you are bringing up here is something that you talk to the council about. Specific needs. Like, I think this is something that is communicatable to the council and to the government. I also did volunteer work for 2 years on an artist-run space back in Scotland, in Glasgow, as a committee member. They cut our regular funding, and we had to go back and say, look, artist-run space, we need money to do what we need to do. We're cultural workers. We're creating cultural and history for this country. So we deserve to get paid, and we keep negotiating. What we had there was Creative Scotland to tell them, like, it's very, very boring admin work that you need to write a report, progress report, and you need to make them a budget plan, and to tell them that
it's lacking. This is lacking in the industry right now. And I think that reaching out, this is already a group of people here that you're sharing your struggle, and there's a common ground there that we all understand, like funding. So these we need to call into people in power and in charge in this, and have the money to support us, to get them on board, to make better life.
Just 5 minutes to wrap up, guys. So to what?
That's all. Another comment.
We got a designated note taker.
I don't know who's going to talk. Not me.
Someone's going to have to talk.
Yeah, she always
noticed that about me.
Yeah, so it's you, Jane. Sorry.
Wildfire.
Are you willing to do it, Jane?
Oh, I don't mind. Yeah. Wildfire Rising came out of the conversation last year, conversations between
Powering down.
Ithalia and I and Movema, powering down. And but actually, the whole idea of that was that it's an alternative kind of route. It's a little bit like the funded residency that you've talked about. That's kind of how it was kind of originally envisioned, was that the artists would have paid time to invest in their own practice. So they're paid, but what that is kind of up to them, because each one of them is different. And we're still figuring out, these have been our guinea pigs.
Disconnected.
We're still figuring out how that works, but then we'll be using all the learning from this to look at how that program develops. But the ideal is that then becomes part of our NPO, our National Portfolio Organisation application for the future, so that it's, because at the moment,
I was like, God, you're writing that again, probably.
Yeah. Because otherwise, we're just always like trying to jump the next hurdle to get the next bit of funding, to get the money to the people that it needs to get to. So you're right, it's like, what's the longer term structure for it? Or
like, with all of the directors or whoever is co-founder of all of this dance or organization united.
Yeah.
Speak to the government.
Yeah.
Because these things need longevity. They don't need sustain, just to sustain. Everything's just like, it's just all about, okay, so you get funding for 3 years. What happens to them after those 3 years? What happens to those people with that never got those 3 years? It's about getting the longevity. I am really, really sick of people talking about, I've been in this thing before probably all of you were born. I'm not even joking. No, you know, Sabrina. Okay, so what did you say?
You're always sick of it. I remember
I really am.
the conversation would be there.
So I'm really, yes, things need funding, but things need funding with sustainability, with longevity, not just, you can sustain it for 3 years, or we can get another 3. No, we need longevity. We don't need no little 3-year projects. We're not projects. We are majority of us in this room are professional people, and we still have to be classed as a project. Even me at my stage and where I am, I still get classed. Oh, well, you could, come to this. No, I don't want to come to your project. I know everything what I need to know. I need to be sustained till my death, because I will be dancing till the day I die. Do you know what I'm saying?
And an opportunity for you to pass it off.
Well, that's what I was going to get to next. That's what goes to next. Who takes my legacy? Who gets the legacy from me? Who comes to learn everything I know about dance? Who comes and takes that from me? It's not necessarily always for me as well to have to be running out there to the people. Who comes to me? You need to come. People need to come to you as well. It's like, it's all right sitting there and going, oh well, this isn't there, that's not there. But also, you need to go and find the people who have done it and have got it, and go and get it from there as well. You know what I mean? I know money is an issue for everyone, for me included, but I have invested in myself a lot. I've traveled the world to just go and learn what I want to learn. You know what I mean? And when I say I travel the world, I really have. You know what I mean? Because I wanted to learn that. And I ain't got money. You know what I'm saying? I've been evicted from my home and everything because of my love and passion for dance.
Just 1 minute, guys.
So we want longevity. We don't want projects at all. And if you want to talk about pilots, every dance organization can show you pages and pages. worked with Cheshire Dance years ago. I'm sure you can go into your archives and find paid dozens and dozens of pilot schemes. We don't want that. And we have to start saying we don't want that. The pilots have been done. We want what we want, the longevity of our work and the visibility of our work as dance artists. Sorry.
What you're saying is completely legit, and you as a lived experience is very important, and the government needs to hear this, like it needs a sustainable funding rather than fixed term project based type.
Yeah. I haven't got a problem. Don't get me wrong, you know, I haven't got a problem with projects and things like that, but most people are past that.
Sheetal?
I mean, it has been a project.
Thanks, Maxine.
The whole
You know
life
what I'm
long
saying,
this
though?
project.
Yeah.
You're under Lauren Crocker, yeah?
Oh. Okay. Can everyone hear me? Hold on a minute, we've got an issue with the...
Yeah, it's power down.
Powered down, yeah.
Auxiliary input.
Yeah.
Can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, and we can hear you too. Fantastic. I really didn't want to stop those conversations then, but we've been here till 9 o'clock. I know we would. And like myself and Akosua just touched base and said, you know, there's so much to talk about and there's so much to, to listen to be able to come to, the plan for moving forward. But I think from just the little snippets that I've just heard, it'd be great just to share that before we then pass to Paul to finish our event off today. I hope each of you have decided on someone to share back with the rest of the group. If not, maybe one of you can be courageous and do that.
Sheetal, do you want to share from the group you were in? Yeah, fantastic.
So my question.
I know we didn't decide first.
We were discussing in our group about this question that who do we go to? Would be good if it was.
Yeah.
Who do we go to? What training opportunities, development opportunities are available for artists who practice culturally diverse dance styles? What should be done about it? What can we do about it? So Akosua gave her response as to her own experience and said, well, it's about creating what you want. It's about creating what you desire. So yes, like for example, South Asian dance organizations, there's Sampad in Birmingham, there's Academy in London, but I'm not in London, I'm here in Liverpool, so it's great that obviously we have Movema here. Milap yes, they're an Indian arts organization, but very much a lot of their focus is on music, and dance is there, but it's like a sort of second thing, not the first thing. So it's just about creating that platform then, creating your own organization, if you really believe in it, if you really believe in what you want to do, and it's creating a difference in the world, and you have to create your own.
Challenge Mela.
Yeah.
Challenge Mela. Yeah.
Challenge Mela. Yeah, that's also somewhat happening throughout my role.
Yeah, I think that's part of the partnership, isn't it, to do that. But I know that someone who couldn't be here today, Sonia Sabri, messaged me and said she really wants to connect, and unfortunately she can't be here today. But I feel like that would be a great connection for you. I bet you've probably already made, but to make those solid connections to move forward with some of these things as well.
So are you not connected with any of the other Asian dancers that are here in Liverpool, like Carly and what's the name?
Train with
I'm trying to think of the name.
Hitton's based in Leicester.
Yeah. No, I mean,
Carly,
in Liverpool.
Can we move on to another group, breakout room? I'm not sure which other would be.
And the next, maybe, could we go to Xiaowei's group? Xiaowei?
Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah, I think we're all talking about similar things. It's about keep reaching out with our desires, what we want to do, and what we're really looking to do, and then also how to do it as well. I think we need to really to work on it and to create that opportunity and to collaborate with people to to bring that question or that not issue, but this to out there, just keep reaching out. That's kind of the method that we need to do, and just keep doing it, and then keep increase that awareness of Chinese dance. Just making people aware about it. Yeah.
Thank you, Xiaowei. I know that sounds like. Thank you so much. That sounds like actions from an artist's point of view. Were there any actions from the organizer? I know Paul and Maria were there as well.
Yeah.
Were there any actions discussed in terms of how organizations and networks can support artists? Maria, do you have your hand up?
I know. Yeah. We talked about kind of a lack of understanding of the rigor that goes into Chinese dance, and the way it's such a rich form for dancers to be learning, and there could be a lot of advocacy and information sharing to dance institutions about that, the value of that. And also we identified in the group that there's a lack of work that can be seen. There's very, very large scale touring Chinese dance companies, and then there's the very community-based, very traditional work, but there's not a lot of support or kind of understanding or a really kind of like ecology around Chinese dance at the kind of like small and mid-scale touring and production. So there's some work to be done around that. I don't think we've got like concrete actions quite soon in a small conversation.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Paul?
Just going to say that one thing has occurred to me throughout this conversation, and that's that I'm going to say this really clumsily, and I apologize for that, but there's something about what labels or how we identify something, and it's largely because at the minute I think we have to think systemically. What I really mean is when we say, if we were particularly talking about dance from a Chinese practice and a Chinese perspective, and you could look at that two ways, or more than two ways. You could say that wants to be presented as Chinese dance, but you could also look at it as it is simply dance, and that to me, there are different things that you need to change. The example is this: I was in London a couple of weeks ago seeing a Korean dance, contemporary dance group that came across, and while every piece of that emerged from Korea, and in fact in the second piece you could very definitely, the music had come from a very specific tradition, and you could identify that. Having watched the piece, you wouldn't say, if you walked in a blank, that was Korean dance. And so for me, a part of the journey at least is to create a bit more systemic change, so that we simply understand that there is dance, and that dance has many different aspects and many different forms of practice. And so it raises that question to me, is how do we make that bigger change, as well as working on the practical change for artists about getting their work shown and creating opportunities for them.
Thank you. Well, just got a response from Peggy to respond to that.
Sorry, Paul. I'm just like, I'm proud to be Chinese. Why can't I just call it Chinese dance? It is Chinese dance.
Yes, you can.
It is, but there is a cultural background of the dance. There's history. There's tradition. It is a dance, but I don't want to call it dance. I want to call it Chinese dance because it is what it is, and I don't know why I need to compromise. I can explain more I don't want to compromise. I want to stick on the authenticity and believe who I am, and there's space for me in the country, when there's loads of Chinese in this country, I just, it's my question back to you. Why do I have to say it's dance and not Chinese dance?
Just one more.
And that's why I said there are at least two approaches, and I wouldn't suggest that. But it's largely because I was talking about not the artist and the creator, because the artist and the creator makes the work that they want to work. I wasn't talking about that. I was actually talking about the presenters and the venues and the places in which you book dance. And I think they've got a long way to go to broaden their understanding of what is possible. And in particular, I think they've got a long way to go to understand what audiences might be possible and what changes they need to make in their own organizations to accommodate audiences that might want to see Chinese dance. Would you say that there is a venue in the Northwest that is expert at Chinese dance?
I have to respond because this is very problematic comment.
Well,
He said just
and
really.
sorry, and just before you respond, as you heard Paul, he says it's a systematic problem, and the system needs to change. Not you as a Chinese dance artist, not me as an African dance artist, not Sheetal as an Asian dance artist. The system needs to change. I remember when I was setting up my academy, I was told to have a name that was softer to the tongue, to the Western tongue, that could be understood. I'm sitting here still calling it Akuma Asa Arts. We're creatures of habit. Anything that you communicate with habit consistently becomes something that everybody embraces. So we are, and I think if I understood that's correct, is what you were saying, we are going to continue pushing our Chinese dance forms, we're going to continue pushing our Asian dance forms, and we're going to continue pushing our African dance forms. And for me, that's my full stop.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
There was a comment.
So the last group to share. Yeah.
Oh.
Sabrina. Does someone else want to comment?
No? Do you want to do it? Do you want me to do it?
You were writing.
I was.
Yes.
Go
on, Jane.
Am I? No, it's fine. I'm all right here, aren't I? So we were talking about who's supporting the artists, particularly artists who from challenging socioeconomic backgrounds. We had more questions, didn't we, that came out, which were who's funding dancers that are aged over 25 to develop? Because a lot of people in this room have come to dance a little bit later, and but the roots aren't there for them to develop, and also they don't want to. Even if someone gave them a pot of money and said, go to university and do a degree, that isn't what they are looking to do at this stage in their life and their career, and also the forms of dance that are available and the training available is not what they're looking for. So how do you develop as a mature student? What are the alternatives to an academic route? There was an example in the visual arts where they have funded residencies, which you said aren't perfect and are still really competitive, but they kind of give an artist an opportunity for 4 weeks or a month to do what they want, and it's paid. There was a big call to, I'll come back to that, that we need to, even though organisations are starting to or trying to potentially put things in place around that, that's where Making Moves, Wildfire Rising, these programmes have emerged from. They are all dependent on the next part of funding, and Maxine was kind of really clearly articulating, we don't want any more pilots. The work has been done, and it's been being done for years. We need longevity, because what happens to the people that go through this training when the money runs out, or the person that didn't get to do it? What happens to those people? So that it needs to be long term, and that's not just for the development of the future, the kind of developing artists, but also what happens to all the knowledge that is with the artists, the current artists, the experienced artists. What happens to all the knowledge that is in Maxine, and when who's going to her to get that and to pass that on to the next generation, because it isn't happening through kind of other routes.
And because, just to add in that, because it's not codified in this country, it hasn't got that system to support the carrying on of the legacy, and that's the challenge, and that's the frustration.
Yeah, and also that, you know, artists who are experienced have invested a lot of time, money, their whole lives in this work. So, you know, it needs to be, taken forward. And the kind of the takeaway from all of that is we need to, as Amanda, you've been really strongly saying, we need to come together. We need to kind of raise a collective voice. We need to go to the people in charge. There needs to be funding streams that are particularly, you know, for this. We need long-term sustainable funding routes. So yeah, we need to get the people in charge on board. Have I missed anything? No. Yeah.
Thank you. That was great. Thank you so much. We have gone. Akosua, sorry, you want to?
I was going to say, was that the last group of breakout room? Or?
Yes. Yeah.
Fantastic. Yes. All right. I'll hand over to yourselves because I know we've got to have Paul wrap us up as well.
I know. I feel like we have gone over time. I do apologise. I'd like to say it wasn't a running theme, but anyway, we'll work on this again and again. But I think this really does lead us into our final closing from Paul to really make us aware of what is happening in the Northwest, what are Dance Consortium doing, what are the opportunities there, how can we connect, and also just to kind of reiterate how Movement are part of the executive team of that, and also Cheshire Dance as well. So we might be an inroad for some of those things as well that Paul brings up. But I'll now timely hand you over to Paul. Thank you so much, Paul.
No pressure then, I get to come last.
I know.
In a long, good conversation. I mean, I can talk about what Dance Consortium is. I mentioned at the beginning, it's probably what you expect it to be. It's a group of organizations. The thing about what we try to do is we try to look for actions where because there's more than one partner in that, we can do something that those individuals couldn't do by themselves. And that's partly why in my mind I think about things like systemic changes. And the example is I was having a conversation yesterday, I think, about trying to find some way that we could get past what a lot of pressure is. The person I was speaking to was actually expressing real frustration that because he's from a particular racial background, he keeps being invited to things. And that feeling of being singled out because he comes from a particular background is becoming more and more frustrating in a very different way than it has before. Because what he thinks is that, yes, it's important that who's there, but it's also hugely important about how the organizations or the companies actually work themselves over time and with those people that are coming in. And that a lot of what he's thinking about and what I'm thinking about is that that's where a lot of the failure is. That those organizations are, at the minute, they're feeling pressure and they're saying, well, let's look at the who is coming in and a bit of their practice, instead of saying, let's look at ourselves and ask, how are we welcoming people in? How are we treating them when they're here? And it was part of that conversation that Amanda started at the very beginning about contracting and how comfortable or uncomfortable artists feel when they're dealing with organizations. What are the harms that can happen, and how to both take action to avoid those harms even manifesting themselves, but if they do, how to fix them. And so a lot of what we're trying to do now is to see if we can't find some ways of knitting together organizations, whether that's programmers, whether that's chief executives or whatever, to think about not just artists and how they interact with artists, which is pretty critical, but also how they create long-term change themselves. And that's what we really need. One of the things we're running now, which I want to make everyone aware of, is it's got a cumbersome name. We're calling it a research program, but it's actually a series of commissions. And what we're saying is that we know that there are issues out there, and they know that they're very important, and we managed somehow to convince the Arts Council, as the first funder, to give us a bit of money where we can make commissions which respond to you as artists, as people in the sector, by saying, this is the question or the problem or the issue I see out there, and this is what I'd like to do to resolve that. The name is cumbersome because we're not talking research, which is academic research. We're talking artistic commissions. But where we were talking in my breakout group, we were talking about the different aspects that might contribute to better opportunities for dancers that work in a Chinese practice. And I kind of broke it down in my mind to think we need to make changes to audiences, you need to make changes to promoters, to venues, organizations, you need to make changes to funders. Well, we have a series of commissions that if you can come forward and say, this is how I might influence promoters, then perhaps we can find a way of helping make that a reality and making an action. An example might be that you need to get some work in front of promoters. So we've got a strand which enables us to do some platforms or some showcase events and so forth. So at least they can see the work that you're making. And in terms of what's out there in the world, we can see some of those. We've seen them all. We have to make work in a different way. After COVID, we've seen issues about equality and equity, even more important, I suppose. But we can't see every issue. So we've tried to open a way of responding to you. So talk to me about those. If you look on the website, we're going to publish a couple more open sessions so we can talk about those a little bit more on the Dance Consortium website just in the near future.
Yeah, just on that, Paul.
The other thing I would say though is that actually, I think people should give themselves, you should give yourselves a pat on the back, because you're making it through a very difficult circumstance. And actually, those of you that found some success have done it, I'm sure, largely off of your own bat. And I would just say, keep fighting for that, but also keep appreciating yourself and appreciate the people around you as well. The artists around you that are fighting, because a lot are falling by the wayside as well. Far too many are falling by the wayside. So let's keep success happening and try to help that. Later.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Paul. It would be great to get more information about, how artists can engage with this process. I know the website, and I'm sure you'll send us some information we can share with everyone who has attended today, because it was, thank you so much for that information, Paul. And I think for artists, it's about them appreciating themselves, but also not having to fight to be appreciated by the systems that exist. And that's where the challenges and the exhaustion is happening. I think that these conversations have raised those issues. So these labs hopefully are a way to fund some of these things to go forward. And I know Dance Consortium North West aren't going to answer everything, but they're definitely one route in it. And Movema are also, we're a micro organisation, but we're very passionate about these things. And it's a shame that, One Dance UK didn't attend tonight. And I will follow that up with Andrew Hurst, because he did say he was going to attend, to really see what, nationally can be done about these things as well, so that it doesn't keep getting placed back onto the artist who is exhausted and fed up of doing some of these things. But yeah, thank you so much for that information.
They aren't completely absent, I have to say. The person I referenced when I was talking was from One Dance UK.
Okay, great.
And I've agreed to carry back what I've heard of this. I didn't actually realise that Andrew had said yes, so when I was talking to them, I said, well, we'll talk again after this, and I can feed that back. So just to say, it won't go completely lost.
Amazing. Yeah. And it's just raising. I'm going to stop. This is my last point, and I will be quiet. If the systemic things that we're talking about, that's an example of like being in the room and in the space and part of the conversation and connecting with the artist, remove some of those systemic barriers around who they are, what they do, the understanding of, so I think, thank you for sharing that. You will be feeding that back. But again, it would be great to have that conversation and those things directly with One Dance UK also, because we know it's different. Yeah, it's different. Well, thank you.
Thank you. Could somebody do like a screenshot? Do you mind? Can we get a picture?
That would be gorgeous. And can everyone in the space maybe just make sure that they're in that screen? That would be gorgeous. Don't be looking like that. And everyone, yeah. We'll squeeze here.
Are you going to press and do it, Italia?
I'm sorry, my hair's going to get in the way, Xiaowei. I'm sorry. Can someone else do it? Can someone else do it in our show? Oh, Maria's going to do it. Maria's going to do it. Thank you. Joe, where are you? Hold on, one more without the mic in the face. That's it, go on. 3, 2, 1. The mic's on your head. I don't mind the microphone being on my head. Thank you so much. I think I have everybody's email addresses. If you, I'll make sure I've got everyone in this space. We will continue these conversations, and if we all agree to be updated, we'll create a little group message, and then you can kind of engage that as you are able to. And I know we will bring this back in the next year, but I know there'll be lots of things happening in between that. So thank you so much for your time, for your extra half an hour. I really appreciate it on behalf of the movement. We really appreciate it. It's really part of the work that we do and that we are advocating for and that we are really passionate about. So thank you. And thank you to Akosua for co-facilitating this with me again. It's really been great over the last couple of years to develop our relationship within the dance sector, and I know we've got ideas of how we can kind of develop some things as well. I know we'll be back next year as well. So yeah. Okay, she's saying 6 or 9 in the promo. Yeah, thank you, Maria. Yeah, so I know for those that are online, we're actually this is time to have a bit of an after social in the space. We can keep this on if anyone wants to, it'd be tricky to engage in conversations being great enough. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Paul, so much for sharing.
Thanks, Xiaowei, Peter, Sabrina. Bye, guys. Thanks.